Oh boy, where do I even start with this Super Bowl halftime show? And the mudslinging from the left that's saying that, we are political and et cetera. There's just so much to weigh in here. I mean, this Super Bowl stuff, it just highlights the entire problem in the country. And it points right back at the left. I want to read a list here of names. These are past Super Bowl halftime show headliners, starting with this one, Degenerate Rodent, Bad Bunny, Kendrick Lamar, Usher, Rihanna, Dr. Dre, The Weeknd, Shakira and J-Lo, Maroon 5 with Big Boy and Travis Scott, Justin Timberlake, Lady Gaga. That takes us back to 2017. What do all of these have in common? What do they have in common? They're all left-wing activists. They're all left-wing activists, and in most cases, their music is not family-friendly. And I'll weigh into the politics of this in just a second, because there's a lot to get into, a lot that needs to be addressed. But my first problem with the degenerate rodent, Bad Bunny, is that he's a degenerate rodent. It isn't even about politics at the top of the list. It's the fact that the Super Bowl is the most widely watched event in America every year, and it's a family-friendly event. At least that's what it's supposed to be. It's a football game. People have Super Bowl parties. They've got kids. People are tuned in. And you would think that, knowing that, a culture that cared about its kids would try to produce something wholesome, something unifying. And if you're some degenerate leftist out there that's upset with this message already, well, get ready, buckle up, because I want you to defend this. Go ahead and defend this. So first off, the degenerate rodent Bad Bunny started the halftime performance with the song Titi Me Pregunto. And forgive me, I speak Italian, fluent Italian. I never cared that much for Spanish. Nothing against Spanish, but I never liked Spanish, so I learned Italian. I lived in Italy. I worked in Italy. I love Italian, so that's my language, not Spanish. I'm bilingual, but I don't speak Spanish. I speak Italian. So this first song, Titi Me Pregunto, is built around a brag of sexual conquering. And this is celebrated. I've got one today, another tomorrow. There's no wedding, Bad Bunny says. She says, my DICK is fire. I don't fall in love. I just use them. And in that song, of course, Bad Bunny lists by name and nationality a bunch of women like they're collectibles. I'm going to break your heart, he says proudly in the song. Now, that's just the first song. What other songs did he sing? Yo Pereo Sola. She gets high, she drinks, she gets horny, she climbs on the table and starts grinding. She doesn't want love, she wants stuff. You know what? Here's the other song he sang, Safira. If she bends over, I'm hitting it. Open your legs, don't be shy. This is for getting effed up and effing. Oh, it just keeps going. Pure pornographic club language. Ayo, ayo, he says over and over again, like a idiot. I go down on her and she gets happy. She wants it raw, no rules. We don't sleep. Here's another one. Monaco. The flight attendant goes down on you in the sky. Here's another one. El Apagón. I love Puerto Rico's. Let's see. Now, it's interesting because, the left tried to crucify Donald Trump back in 2016 when they had their November surprise with that decade-old grab him by the Access Hollywood tape. And here you've got a Puerto Rican singer that's glorifying this at the Super Bowl halftime. And this is why I don't even take the left seriously. You don't set the terms of my debate. You aren't any kind of moral authority. And that's why I laugh at you. That's why your attacks and on Trump and everything else, they don't work because you celebrate this stuff. You celebrate this stuff. And so that's the first reason, which isn't political at all, that I'm disgusted by this halftime show. I've got 2 daughters, by the way. I've got an almost 3-year-old and another daughter who just turned 1. So that means I'm a father, a girl dad currently. And, maybe I was selfish in the past before I had kids and would just, it was such a good show. It was fun. Besides, it was in Spanish. I couldn't understand that he was saying these things anyway. It was so fun, wasn't it? Becoming a parent obviously changes you. You have a responsibility. And really, this is the big highlight of the Bad Bunny stuff. We are a culture in America that celebrates selfishness. It's all about me, and what I want and my fun, and nothing can get in the way of that. Not even a bunch of kids watching the Super Bowl halftime show. If we were a responsible, moral society that took our children seriously and loved our children and loved our youth, every American would say, this is not what we want to showcase. If you're a parent and an adult and you want to go to a concert and listen to Bad Bunny, that's fine. That's fine. But it's the same thing with this, and you can relate it to Drag Story Hour for kids and the parades in West Hollywood, California, of men spanking each other and whipping each other in public. We do not care about our kids. We do not protect the youth. We are not invested in the future, which is our children. And that's number one. And then, it does get political because you'll notice that you have to be a left-wing activist to get a spot chosen by Jay-Z. He's the one who has been managing the Super Bowl halftime show since, I think, 2017. And so he picks these people. And so this is on Jay-Z, and I'm talking to you, Jay-Z. You're a degenerate. You should be ashamed of yourself that this is what you showcase at the Super Bowl year after year. Morgan Wallen, country singer, artist, he could have put on an amazing halftime show. Jelly Roll, Post Malone. There are others out there as well. Plenty of people that we could celebrate and people would have had a fun time listening to. But instead, they put up this guy. And by the way, this was a political act. They knew what they were doing when they did this, just like they know what they're doing every single year. Despite the fact that a majority of people watching the Super Bowl are right-leaning, they would never, ever put somebody up there that was pro-Trump. Degenerate rat, Bad Bunny, just was accepting a Grammy Award and came out with this political message opposing ICE. Now imagine if, you can't even imagine. That's how far we are. You can't even imagine putting up somebody who said anything positive about Trump on that stage. And that's what's so infuriating by this. But again, it's the lyrics and it's what we're celebrating. I don't celebrate that. I reject it. And every single Democrat out there, I'm sorry, you are a supporter of degeneracy. If you think this Bad Bunny halftime show was amazing, because it wasn't amazing for my kids. I had older kids in my house. We hosted a Super Bowl party. There were kids of various ages there, none of them teenagers yet. And this is what was on. And, look, they're celebrating this. This was the most watched Super Bowl or halftime show in history. Okay, fine. This is the first time we had an alternative halftime show with TPUSA as well. And that got a record-breaking number of views, and that was a success as well. And so, yeah, this nation continues to be deeply polarized. But, we can't seem to agree on anything, and that's the point. And in this case, it's the left who's at fault. It's Democrats who are at fault. Because, again, my message is not political. I've got young girls, and I don't want to be watching a Super Bowl and have some guy singing in Spanish or English or any language about this sort of degeneracy. It has no place in my living room at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in California where I live. It was a crappy Super Bowl game, by the way, anyway. It was so boring. Totally boring football game. But let me play some clips here because I just want to talk about how stupid all of this is. Before I play a clip, though, I want to bring up your media here. I want to show you the difference of how they covered Bad Bunny and how they covered the TPUSA show with Kid Rock. And by the way, people's big comeback when I talk about the degeneracy on display at the Super Bowl with Bad Bunny and the lyrics I just read to you. Well, Kid Rock, he has a song, about sleeping with underage girls. Was that sung at that Super Bowl halftime show? Was that sung at the TPUSA show? No, it wasn't. Actually, let me do this. Let me play this. Here's Kid Rock at the TPUSA alternate halftime show.
There's a book that's sitting in your house somewhere that could use some dusting off. There's a man who died for all our sins, hanging from the cross. You can give your life to Jesus, and he'll give you a second chance till you can't take it. If you got a chance, take it.
Amazing. It's amazing. And the fact, look, and the argument isn't here that Kid Rock's lived a wholesome life and is, the example that I point my daughters to for some future husband. That's not the argument. It's about what's being showcased in a setting that is family-oriented. That's it. So these are fake straw man arguments when you're saying, well, he's got songs about this. That's not what happened last night. We're talking about the Super Bowl, family-friendly setting. And I played you there a clip of one of the songs he sang at the TPUSA event. Now look at some of these headlines. Here's Rolling Stone. Bad Bunny makes history as the first Latin artist to deliver a Super Bowl halftime show, primarily in Spanish, and he went all out. Glowing praise. Now let's see what Vanity Fair. Turning Point USA's All-American halftime show is predictably xenophobic, but perhaps surprisingly low quality and poorly attended. Here's Rolling Stone covering the TPUSA halftime show. Billed as an alternative to Bad Bunny's official Super Bowl performance, Turning Point USA's halftime show featured a half-assed, lip-sync-filled set from Kid Rock. Vanity Fair. You didn't need to know Spanish to grasp the message of Bad Bunny's halftime show. Puerto Rico is America. Fiesta is a form of protest. Joy is a kind of rebellion. Communist crap. Here's ABC News. Bad Bunny delivered a standout performance at the halftime show on Sunday, paying homage to his Latin heritage and roots. The Grammy-winning global sensation brought his Puerto Rican culture to Levi State. Puerto Rican culture. And look, they use the song, starting with Titi Me Pregunta. So are you telling me that it's Puerto Rican culture to go and bang a bunch of hoes and celebrate them and brag that you're not going to marry any of them because you're not that kind of guy? That's Puerto Rican culture? Some kind of culture. So I've got one comment here I want to address from David Hogue. He's watching on Facebook. He says, the message in Bad Bunny's show was love overcomes hate. Really? I've got one today, another tomorrow. There's no wedding. She says, my is fire. I don't fall in love. I just use them. She doesn't want love. She wants to. Well, I mean, he says in his song, he's not talking about love. He's just talking about effing. Wow, that's quite a message of love. Love conquers hate. Bad Bunny's got a lot of love. So much love, he can't contain himself and act responsibly. Yeah, no, you guys don't know what love is on the left, by the way. You guys are the ones that celebrated Charlie Kirk's assassination. You said his speech was violence, and then you celebrated an actual act of violence. So don't give me this crap about you guys being for love. Yeah, you love each other, and you love communism, and you love your leftist crap, but you didn't love Charlie Kirk. You don't love me. You don't love the country. Your entire ideology is built on hatred and destroying it. You don't know what love is. And I might get intense, and I might get passionate, but I love this country. And frankly, it is from love that I do this show. It's from love that I go out and speak. I'm speaking at another Republican event tomorrow. It's from love that I want to shower my children with wholesome content. It's love, David Hogue, that I even have for you. And disagreement. It's why I want to talk. I want to debate. That's the difference. The left doesn't know about love. Give me a break. So here is a clip of Dirty Rat at the Super Bowl.
God bless America. Sea Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Perú, Ecuador, Brasil, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Panamá, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, México, Cuba, República Dominicana, Jamaica, Haití, las Antillas, United States, Canadá, and my motherland, mi patria, Puerto Rico. Seguimos aquí. Ahora sí.
Honestly, you know what? Now that I watched that clip, it feels like our country was just invaded. That's what it feels like. That's what it looks like. And I mean, the ignorance is astounding. So he goes off and lists every Spanish-speaking country in our hemisphere, including dictatorships like Cuba, and then he throws in, United States, Canada, and then he holds up a football that says, "Together we are America." No, together we are not America. Those are sovereign nations. Those aren't American. Okay, can you imagine for a second any other country on this earth, whether it's a soccer game or football, as it would be called in most of those countries. I mean, rugby, anything. Just pick a big event in another country. Imagine somebody coming out and listing off every country in the world, or listing the states in the United States of America and saying, "Together we are France. Together we are Italy." No, we're not together Italy. You're Italy. We're the United States of America. We're not Venezuela. We're not Cuba. And this is the whole problem with the left's outlook. And by the way, I want to explain something to you, and I will make the case. The left right now and the Democrat Party, one and the same, they are a political party whose guiding ideology is anti-white racism. Oh, yes, it's true. It's true. I guess I'll do the Trump weave here, and we'll come back to this subject, but we'll kind of go. That's the theme of the show, holding up a mirror to the left. But listen to this foreign-born Texas Democrat.
I always tell people the day the Latino, African-American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. Because we are the majority in this country now. We have the ability to take over this country and to do what is needed for everyone.
Oh, for everyone? You mean these people talk? I mean, look, I reject racism. I reject slavery, which Democrats obviously champion throughout their history. But this guy's talking about white people like they're blacks in the South. Everyone but white people, we're in the majority. And, we can take over now. What, excuse me? You're engaged in a race war against white people. That's what he's saying there. And I'm not going to sit here and stay silent on the subject. And here's the thing with the left and their worldview. You can't be racist. Only whites are racist. That's it. Because in their view of the world, whites are responsible for everything, every sin, which of course is unbelievable. Before the transatlantic slave trade, that would be the slave trade that brought black slaves, who, by the way, were sold by black African kings. They sold their own people. Well, preceding that was the slave trade that was run by Arab countries, Muslim countries that sold blacks to China and elsewhere. Racism is, and this is the thing, it's moral relativism of the left. I reject racism in all its forms. You aggressively adopt racism against white people. And we're not going to sit here and accept it and tolerate it. You should be condemned, and I am condemning that guy right there. It's outrageous. So anyway, Bad Bunny, back to the Super Bowl halftime show. Cuba, Dominican Republic, whatever. It lists all these countries and says, together we are America. No, we are not America. And that's the problem. And this is the point. It's a basically, you know why Mamdani and the Muslims and the Democrats are all, getting together? Because they want to conquer. And that's what they have in common. I've said this before. People ask me, how can gays be for Palestine when gays are thrown off roofs in Palestine? Well, because they have an overarching objective that momentarily neutralizes the obvious elephant in the room. These guys want you dead, but you're going to align yourself and form an alliance. Now, because you hate the West or you hate Jews. And so you will put that aside and you guys can kill each other later when you're, exterminate the Jews or destroy the West properly. And that's what's happening right now. I've got a clip of Mamdani I want to play here. Listen to this. This is a stunning thing. Now, for Democrats out there, you tell us, and it's not true, but this is the false history that you are fed with your woke indoctrination, separation of church and state, right? Christianity, it's Christian nationalism, right? Ooh, you guys that are Christians that talk about your Christian faith and want to run for office and talk about God, even though that George Washington talked about God and every president talked about God and this country was founded on Christianity by Christians. You can't do that. Separation of church and state. No. You got to bow down to the rainbow flag, the trans flag. But that Christian stuff in the Bible, get that out of the public sphere, baby. You can't have the 10 Commandments in the room. You can't even talk about Christianity, but we can talk about how your daughter or son should be transitioning to some other gender when they're 5 years old. And this is what Christians out there have to understand. Leftism is a religion, and it's a dangerous one. It is not a replacement for Christianity. Now listen to Mamdani here.
The story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. Surah An-Nahl 1642 tells us, as for those who immigrated in the cause of Allah after being persecuted, we will surely bless them with a good home in this world. Or as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange. So glad tidings to the strangers.
So the first Muslim mayor of New York City is quick to quote the Quran. What do you think Democrats would say if, I don't know, a Republican were standing there quoting the Bible? And by the way, I support quoting the Bible. But here you have a Muslim that wants Christians to stay out of office and not bring their Christianity, and yet there he is bringing Islam front and center to his politics. And I mean, he's committing a complete fallacy there, and he's a liar, and he knows he's lying. He's a terrible Muslim if that's what he thinks about, you know, the Quran is pro illegal immigration. Let's house the you know, how many Democrats are housing these illegals in their homes? Huh? What, you know, in Minneapolis and Minnesota, why don't you Democrats who are out there protesting ICE, who are fighting for the rights of illegal criminals who are murderers and rapists and have rap sheets like that to stay in this country, why don't you make a deal with Jacob Fry, the mayor, and you can go and let one of these illegals out of prison, and you can house them in your home. Put them in a room with your kids. Put them on your couch. House the stranger. They'll never do it, of course. How many illegals is Mamdani going to house in his home? So anyway, he's citing the Quran for illegal immigration, and he's abusing theology, even his own, in Islam. You know, Islam is not a borderless, pluralistic faith, by the way. It's a system that's built on complete submission, on law and authority. And this is the difference between the Bible and the Quran, by the way. There is no separation of church and state at all in the Quran. It doesn't sanctify defiance of Islamic law, obviously, either. And Islam historically only tolerated other faiths under Islamic supremacy. They were never viewed as equals. There was no freedom of religion. And like I said, Islam is not just spiritual. It is political, and it's militaristic. I mean, this is what's amazing to me. From the very beginning, Islam expanded through conquest. That's its entire history. You know, that's where jihad comes from. It is armed struggle and territorial expansion that is condoned in the Quran. But I just think that's wild to see happening in this country, because as a matter of fact that Islam is incompatible with Christianity. It's incompatible with the West. It's incompatible with the United States of America. And I'll say it again, obviously you can be a Muslim and live here, but you know, you're going to have to make concessions with your faith because they do not comport with the United States of America. I want to get into the Olympics here before we close out in a minute. But first, what do 3 billionaires, 4 major banks, and a legendary 72-year-old investor all have in common? They're all making the same shocking prediction. Gold is headed for $10,000 or more. Goldman Sachs has said that gold will surge 20%. JP Morgan has said as high as 25%. And one respected economist believes the U.S. government could deliberately raise gold's official price to help pay off the national debt. Our friends at American Alternative Assets, they just released a powerful new report, The Surprising Case for $10,000 Gold. Now you can see what some of the wealthiest players are seeing to make their moves for free. It breaks down the hidden signals, the central bank gold buying spree, and how smart Americans are protecting their retirement with gold right now. Go to cloutgold.com to download it free or call 855-803-GOLD. That's cloutgold.com or 855-803-GOLD. So, you know, I think back to Barack Obama, America's first Muslim president, right? The Billy Graham of Islam. I know he claimed to be a Christian. My point is nobody was a greater defender and promoter of Islam in this country than Barack Hussein Obama, Barry Soetoro. And when he was president, he would go on these American apology tours. And he'd go and diminish the United States of America on the world stage. He was eager to do it, to talk about how bad we are, to attack this country. And no country does this. You realize that even despite America's flaws, and there are flaws because human beings are flawed, and therefore every country is going to have flaws. Despite our flaws, we are still the greatest country in the history of mankind. There is not a country out there that is blameless. There is not a person watching this show or listening to me right now who is blameless and sinless. We are all sinners the same. And we strive to improve. We ask for forgiveness. We try to live up to the standard that Jesus Christ called us to. And yet these people want to pretend that this is the worst country ever. No country has done more for its own citizens and for the world at large than the United States of America. And we should lean into it and be proud of it because we have an amazing history, an amazing, unique story. And we have achieved and accomplished and overcome things in ways that no other nation could or has. And so now you've got these Olympic athletes who are blessed beyond measure for these opportunities. They are Americans. They live in the greatest country ever created. And yet they are uniquely going to the Olympics and trashing America. It's an amazing thing to watch. People who are the most blessed on earth simply because of where they were born. They're just lucky to be born here. That's the thing. All of us, we're just lucky. We're just lucky. We didn't fight in the American Revolution. We didn't fight in the Civil War. Obviously, there's more recent wars. Some wonderful, some not. World War II, a great example of us saving the West. So much to be proud of. So much to be thankful and grateful for. And yet these spoiled little brats that probably listen to Bad Bunny on the ski slopes are not expressing their pride in this country or their gratitude for the opportunities that put them on that stage to begin with. They just go and try and diminish us. Listen to one. Here's this. I don't know who any of these people are, by the way. I could care less. I can tell you this. I am rooting against every one of these people. If you're going to go to the Olympics representing America and trash America, I hope you lose.
It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. If it aligns with my moral values, I feel like I'm representing it. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S. So yeah, I just kind of want to do it for my friends and my family and the people that support me getting here.
So don't go to the Olympics. If you just want to support your friends and family, stay home and go ski in Breckenridge, Colorado with your buddies. Don't go to the Olympics wearing the U.S. flag. Every now and then I like to go to my, comments here because nobody is better at revealing the mental inadequacy of the left and leftists who chime in. So Maggie Early says, this guy sounds like he got shoved in a locker room one too many times in high school. Brilliant, Maggie. Brilliant comment. Please elaborate. I will continue to share your comments and give you more fame than you've experienced in your life. I give an example. It shouldn't matter who the president of the United States is, obviously, or politics you disagree with back home. I would absolutely condemn an athlete going to the Olympics when Barack Obama was president or Joe Biden and trashing the country because of who the president was. It doesn't have a place on the world stage. And at the end of the day, we should be playing for the same team despite our disagreements. And we should be proud of this country because we all live in this country together. And we all are blessed beyond measure. And why is it that the United States of America and our athletes are the only ones going to the Olympics and trashing their country? Let me actually ask another question, or put it this way. They're being goaded by the globalists in the media overseas into answering questions like this. Do you think that the British athletes representing the United Kingdom, for example, Great Britain? Do you think that the media is asking them, hey, how do you feel about your, Prime Minister Starmer there, or whatever his name is, letting these Pakistanis that have been raping women out on the streets? How do you feel about the invasion by Muslims in your country and these roving gangs that are raping your citizens and daughters? Are you proud of that? They don't ask that question. Why don't they ask that question? Why don't they ask any of these socialist countries that have basically no GDP? Why don't they ask them about their issues back home? Why is it always about, oh, the U.S. has issues back home? The world has issues. Hatred for America. You know what these athletes should be saying if they weren't indoctrinated and infected by the cancer that is the woke mind virus? They would put their foot down if they were asked such a question. They would say, well, why don't you ask other people that question? You know, America's the greatest country in the history of the world. Sure, we have problems. Every country has problems. But I'm grateful to be here representing America. I'm here because of America. And I'm excited to compete and represent my country. That's all you have to say. But these people have weak minds. Here's another one.
Yeah, it's been a hard time for the community overall under this administration. It isn't the first time that we've had to come together as a community and try and fight for our human rights. And now, especially, it's not just affecting the queer community, but many other communities. And I think that we are able to support each other in a way that we didn't have to before. And because of that, it's made us a lot stronger. I hope I can use my platform and my voice throughout these games to try and encourage people to stay strong in these hard times.
What is she talking about? Obviously, she's a lesbian. What rights does she not have? Donald Trump has a lot of gay people in his administration. Scott Bessent is gay. Rick Grenell is gay. What is she talking about? This is the point. The left doesn't even live in reality. They have this false worldview that they've been fed from their parents, from the media, from the schools they attended, and they are incapable of looking around them and seeing what's real. She's going over there and she's playing a victim. Oh, I'm here to represent queers and give them a voice. It's an invented problem. You're the most, one of the most, I mean, before the trans community came up, you were the most coddled faux victim class in this entire nation. It's just unbelievable. Express some gratitude. Why don't you respond? You know what? At least I can be gay in America. You know, there are places like Palestine where we get killed. There are places in the Middle East where you can't be gay. Nobody's taking opportunities of you because you're gay. But you see the activism of the left. They have to go out there and view themselves as some superhero in this false narrative they're living, this screenplay they're writing for themselves. They're always fighting this phantom. It doesn't matter that there's no issues with queer people here. Not from this administration. They're not being persecuted. They're not being assassinated like Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump or, you know, young kids sitting in Catholic Mass being mowed down by a trans lunatic. But she's out there. Well, yeah, I got to represent the queer. We're having such a hard. I mean, boo-hoo. So pathetic. All right, look, that's all we have time for today. I love my family. I love my girls, my two girls. I love my wife. I love you in the audience. I love this country. I love my detractors. I love the people that hate my guts. I want to see everyone succeed. I want to see this country succeed. And it's not going to succeed by embracing the Bad Bunny woke crap at the Super Bowl. That was a display of that which is damaging to this country, that is destroying this country. That's what's responsible for it. And so, yeah, I'm going to sit here behind this mic. I'm going to do my job elsewhere as a publicist in this country, in my state, talking about reality, talking about the truth. And over the next year, I'm going to develop something, my own organization, First time I'm even talking about it because I just realized it's a passion of mine. And I'm going to go and we're going to arm our kids with an ability to debate. We're going to counteract this nonsense this poison that's being spread by people throughout this country on the left that is tearing our country apart. Because the burden's on us. The burden's on us. You know, if you're a Christian, you want to convert somebody, you know, it's not enough to simply be a Christian yourself. You got to show your math. So we got to study these issues. And fortunately, we know what the left says about anything. We know what their falsehoods are. We see what's going on and what's being taught in schools. So we got to be the doctors of democracy, as Rush Limbaugh called himself, right? We got to have a cure. And we also have to understand the underlying disease, the root cause. And so we're going to address those two things. We're going to build out a movement that's going to educate people. And we're going to take back this country one mind at a time. All right, folks. God bless you all. I want to thank you for being here with me on this Monday. I hope you have a great, great week. I'll be back with you hopefully on Wednesday to give you some update. Tomorrow, pray for me. Going to speak to a wonderful group of Republicans in Northern California. And onwards, folks.